Welcome to episode 2 of 10 for 10, a series of 10 interviews in honor of Lutheran Satire's 10th anniversary. Today I will be interviewing Todd Wilken of Issues Etc. We'll be talking about a number of things, including what Issues Etc. does, the upcoming Issues Etc. conference that I was not invited to speak at, and also as an added bonus, because I recently messed up my back and pinched a nerve, I may occasionally be interjecting a blood-curdling scream. Hope you enjoy. Todd Wilken, thanks for agreeing to sit down with me. Issues Etc. is a 10-hour weekly syndicated radio talk show and podcast. It is a profoundly Christ-centered program, highly successful show, highly respected. I genuinely don't know that there's another Christian program you can find where you'll find the kind of quality discussion that you'll get there. So when it comes to putting together a show like this, I guess my first question is, why am I not speaking at the Issues Etc. conference this year?
Well, we have a great lineup. We have Dr. Robert George, we have Mark and Molly Hemingway, we've got Pastor Brian Wolfmiller, and who are we going to bump to give you a spot?
I mean, it is true that they're all good, and that's a good counter-argument. But I think if we're being honest, deep down, the reason I'm probably not speaking at this year's conference is because last year I did say that you looked like Stanley Tucci slowly turning into Santa Claus.
Yes, you did.
Ah!
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the fact that you didn't get invited.
Agree to disagree. So, tell us a bit about Issues Etc.
Well, Issues Etc. has been on the air for about 25 years. It started as kind of a general issues program that was produced out of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod's radio station, KFUO in St. Louis. And within a couple of years, it became a theological talk show. And that format is pretty much held sway for the last 20 plus years. You mentioned Christ-centered. We have kind of two big themes. It's Christ-centered, cross-focused. And because a lot of people claim to be Christ-centered and they ignore the cross. And we talk about expert guests, we talk about expansive topics, and we talk about extolling Christ. So we're back around to Christ-centered, but it is current affairs, it is politics as they impact Christian piety and living, it is hymn studies, is it Bible study, it is looking forward to Sunday morning, preparing people to go to the divine service. That's why when we had the opportunity to retool after we were canceled more than a decade ago by the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, we decided to keep the name, Issues Etc., because it's general enough to cover all that. But it's expansive topics, it's expert guests, and it's extolling Christ.
So you mentioned that kind of dark chapter in Issues' history where you guys were canceled and then had to kind of retool and become sort of your own thing independent of the LCMS. I know a lot of times when people go through really difficult circumstances like that, a lot of times there's kind of this question of, is God punishing me for something that I've done? Is God punishing me for something that I might do in the future? Did it ever occur to you that maybe God was punishing you for the fact that you weren't going to invite me to speak at the Issues Etc.
No.
No, good.
Never. Not once.
Throughout the years, you have interviewed a good number of folks. Is there anyone who's kind of like the number one interviewee that you would like to get that you haven't quite been able to land yet?
Oh, that's a great question. I'd love to do Joel Osteen. We've tried dozens of times. Mm-hmm. He's written dozens of books, all the same book, right. Just a different cover.
Right.
And
it's like the AC/DC of pop theology.
Exactly. So every time a book comes out by Joel Osteen, Jeff has gotten on the phone with his people and yammered at them trying to get a interview. Mm-hmm. And either we're not big enough for Joel or his publicist does a little research and sees what we're all about and says, why? When Joel can walk onto the set of Oprah's show, practically without being invited, his publicist doesn't want to see us. But that's the one I would really, really like to have, partly because it would be a very insightful interview, and partly because I think Joel Osteen is one of the nicest people on the planet. I genuinely think he's nice. And I think we could have a very interesting conversation without him getting mad at me. Do you need me, Deaconess Lynn Fredrickson? She's a nurse. Do you need me to bring her in here to take care of you?
No, that scream was about the conference.
Okay.
So with regard to Joel Osteen, so hypothetically speaking, if he were to agree to do an interview with you, and then if you tried to schedule that interview and he never responded, what would you call that? I'd call it pulling a Tony Dungy. I know I've given you a lot of grief about not inviting me to speak at this year's conference after 3 years in a row. But you do have a great, wonderful lineup of presenters. So I was wondering if you wanted to maybe take us through again who's going to be presenting.
Well, we've got Mark and Molly Hemingway coming. They've been kind enough to agree for the time being to be kind of the perpetual returning duo. And what we use them for is something that both of them are best at, which is just general Q&A on politics as it impacts Christian life and piety. So they're both very good at that. Obviously, Molly Hemingway is a regular on Fox News. Mark, her husband, is with Real Clear Investigations. He is hands down the best journalist I have ever encountered. He's just an amazing journalist. Also, Dr. Robert George of Princeton University. He's going to be speaking about the Constitution and civic life. Jack Phillips of Masterpiece Cake Shop, the guy who has been single-handedly bearing the brunt of Colorado's legal system and Colorado's Committee on Civil Rights, and people just hounding this guy into court every single day. And so he's going to be speaking along with one of his attorneys from Alliance Defending Freedom, Dr. Larry Rast. He's going to be there talking about making the case against revivalism, I believe. Pastor Will Whedon will be leading our hymn sing. Finally, Pastor Brian Wolfmiller, he's going to be presenting on Christian hope. It's kind of his wheelhouse. He's probably one of the best teachers, Bible teachers that we've ever encountered. He also, just to be honest with you, when we have him on, we get a lot of downloads. So
you get so many downloads, and yet you never learned how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah, well, yes.
Wolfmuller. Final question. Can I speak at this year's conference?
No.
I'll teach you how to wear a dress shirt. It'll be great.
The only way...
Please, can I just speak at the conference
All
this
right.
year?
I don't make these decisions. I will call Jeff right now.
Okay.
And see if we can have you speak at the 2021 Issues, Etc. conference. Okay. So, you're good with that?
Actually, my back's kind of in bad shape, so I probably got to back out. Bruh.